Hey, this is Pradeep with Sensatura, and today we are traveling back in time. I'm going to be sharing a list of fragrances that I've owned, enjoyed, used a good amount, yet won't be repurchasing. Someone messaged me on Insta asking whether I have ever finished bottles. Does that even happen? Do I still own fragrances that I bought a long time ago and so forth? And the answer is yes. I've finished quite a few bottles actually. Some I have even repurchased. But the later part is a video by itself. Today it's more about the fragrances that I have used at least to the halfway mark or more. Some have only a few drops left, and why I won't be buying them again. A couple are discontinued. Some others I think I've had enough time with, so ready to move on. Some others I don't enjoy as much anymore. Maybe I have found alternatives that do the same idea better. Obviously, with a large collection, practically speaking, I'm not going to be repurchasing or replacing a majority of them. But these are some that stood out for me. So let's get into it in no particular order. First is Tom Ford's Oud Wood from 2007, obviously from the Private blend. It was featured in my list of oud fragrances recently. It's sort of like an oud fragrance for those who don't usually like oud, or maybe trying to venture into oud. That is speaking as a scent. Because as far as price is concerned, this is far from entry level. I've had it for maybe 8 years, I think. Used like 30 ml or 50. I have enjoyed this more as a holistic woody fragrance rather than an oud. And it has lots of it. Rosewood, sandalwood, cedarwood. Comes across like this rubbery, smooth, woody smell. There are some spices as well. Cardamom, saffron. Very nice fragrance. Popular for a reason. To this day, their bestseller. Copied by a lot of brands. They themselves are flankers, intense parfum versions. It's just that it does not excite me as much anymore. I reach for it when I want something approachable, just pleasant, even to the office. But it's not one that engages me as much as some of my overall favorite fragrances, or something that I look forward to wearing on a regular basis. Again, not that I dislike it. For me, it's not binary, love or hate with fragrances. It's more of a spectrum with more nuances. Especially over time, change is not a surprise. If I really don't like something, I wouldn't have it or even force myself to buy it. Also, if I want a proper oud fragrance, I have a lot of other options now. Plus, it's not worth the current asking prices. That's why whenever I go through this, that will be the end of the chapter. Second is Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Eau Intense Pour Homme from 2017, composed by Alberto Morillas. I have quite a few in this signature bracket on the list for obvious reasons. That's just how the timelines worked out, I guess, from my earlier days of purchase. I bought this at the time of release in 2017 when I had just moved to the south of France for a project. So I have some good memories wearing this a lot during summer, to the beach, to the office. Very cheap back then. Versace's signature Pour Homme was another one I remember picking up at the same time. This is still a nice, versatile scent. It's aquatic, fresh, citrusy, some soapy clean grapefruit in there, orange blossom, musky, some tonka, giving it that beach after a shave sort of designer men's fragrance smell. It's just that today I've come to acquire more interesting fresh fragrances. So in comparison, it feels a bit generic, not as engaging. I will still finish it. I even reached for it a couple of times this last summer, but don't think I will replace it. Third is Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privée, composed by Olivier Cresp and Nathalie Laurent. Probably the most well-received signature fragrance of 2022. This was actually gifted to me by a friend. He bought like 4 bottles of this from a discounter for under 30 euros each, I think. I've liked wearing it. Sort of takes the powdery, iris, woody signature of the previous flankers and adds some autumnal notes like chestnut and whiskey. Chestnut was having a moment back then because of Armani's Stronger With You. When this was announced, it seemed like it would clash with the gentleman's scent profile, But surprisingly, it works fine. It's actually closer to the Eau de Parfum, which used to be my favorite from this lineup, along with the discontinued cologne. Since this one, they revamped the entire collection with the completely forgettable Society line, which just smells like the typical sweet factory product to me. So this is probably the last good Givenchy fragrance. So I think I will just leave it at that and move on. Let's do a couple of discontinued fragrances next. This is Gucci Pour Homme from 2003, composed by Michel Almerac. This started the entire fresh, spicy, papyrus laced with incense, cedar theme, which has been referenced by dozens of fragrances over the years, be it niche or designer. Bentley for Men Absolute, Comme des Garçons Wonderwood, French Lover, Bois Mystique, Creed's Royal Wood, and so forth. Over time, the mythical status of this has only become stronger, and now it goes for like 300-400 euros online. Sure, it's better than a lot of designer fragrances being released today, but I don't think it's worth that kind of price. Lucky for us, the same perfumer started a brand and remade this under the name of Papyrus Wood 71. I have a bottle of that. It's fairly identical, maybe more darker and resinous, so I think I will be totally content with that. Next is easily the fragrance I like the most on this list. From 2010, this is Traversée du Bosphore of L'Artisan Parfumeur, composed by Bertrand Duchaufour. Another one that has been discontinued. They really did some experimental work early on. Unfortunately, this brand has seemingly discontinued all their interesting fragrances. Séville à l'Aube, Safran Troublant, Zing, Iris Pallida, to name a few. If they discontinue Bois Farine and Timbuktu, then there will be nothing interesting left. As usual with the discontinuation, this has now entered the dreaded investment fragrance territory. It goes for 350, 400 plus online. So I don't think I will be able to get it again. In terms of scent, it's sort of an homage to Istanbul. It has this peculiar blend of fruity, floral, spicy notes and leather without being heavy-handed. There is some red, fruity smell, apparently from apple and pomegranate, suede leather supported by saffron, some smoky, nutty facets thrown in, and this kind of sweet, chewy, gelatin-like texture coming in. Surprisingly, it's all treated like a musky, powdery floral. Very artistic. I only wish it was still around. After that is another one I talked about recently in my list of oud fragrances. This is Chopard Oud Malaki from 2012, composed by Dominique Ropion. This is one of the best value for money oud fragrances that one can get. It's got decent materials, a legendary perfumer behind, smells upper end for something you can get for under 40 euros. That has also limited the times I reach for it over the years, because now if I feel like wearing something in a similar vein, I usually reach for an Amouage or Mall instead. So I think I'm ready to move on from this once it's done. Maybe explore some others from this Malaki line. In terms of scent, this is more of a dry, woody, spicy composition, trying to imitate the experience of an oud. It smells like the powder left after an incense stick has finished burning. Some tobacco in there as well, but it's mostly a dry, woody, dusty, powdery kind of scent. Does not get talked about much these days, but definitely has its fans. After that is Opium Pour Homme. This is a 90s fragrance from YSL, composed by Jacques Cavalier. I got this mainly for its note of anise. It's this classic, powdery, benzoin, vanilla-infused, warm, spicy scent. The anise itself is done in this fresh, hazy fashion, rather than the inky, licorice style that is very familiar these days. It came out a while ago after the original Opium, which is this powerhouse amber oriental fragrance. This is relatively softer and for that time did something different. I still enjoy wearing it on very specific occasions, a couple of times a year, so maybe not so much. I've also come to like it less and less over the years. Since then, I've also moved to other anise fragrances. So I think it's time for me to part ways with it. Next is probably the newest on the list in terms of release. This is Le Papier from 2023, of course from Diptyque, composed by Fabrice Pellegrin. This is one of the more uninterestingly interesting fragrances that I've come across. It has this boiled rice, new paper, fresh white towel after a bath in a hotel, that kind of smell, which is interesting for a while, for a few wearings. After that, it goes into the usual 2020s clean millennial white musk territory. It's quirky, ironic, interesting, but in a predictable way. It was divisive when it first released, but over the months, Diptyque has done a very good job positioning it as that fragrance. The one you see on magazines, Instagram, stone closets, Apple devices, and so forth. Almost making it a lifestyle product. And now it's probably their most popular fragrance. They have even made an entire line of products out of this. All that is fine. I still wear it to bed sometimes, or even lounging at home. It's pleasant. I will probably review it at some point in detail, but I think I'm ready to bid adios after this. Next, from 2014, this is Masculin Pluriel from Maison Kurkdjian. A house that I'm not particularly a fan of as a whole, but they have some exceptional standout creations like Absolue pour le soir. This one kind of flies under the radar because it tries to do the perfumer's interpretation of a barbershop style of fragrance, which was already on its way out by the time this was released. I wish we had more modern interpretations of this aromatic fougere barbershop style of fragrances, because it's a really versatile type of scent family, except for a few like Boy, Music for a While, Invasion Barbar, Beau de Jour, and this. There are not many creations that try to tackle it. This also in a way fits into the grey trend of fragrances that was popular during the mid-2010s. It does not have noticeable citruses, but still fresh, clean, a bit metallic, has that crystalline treatment of lavender, lots of tonka, bringing in the shaving foam-like experience, all underpinned by modern patchouli, woods and musks, rather than the conventional, old-fashioned, mossy dry down. Very classy, upscale, one of my most worn fragrances to the office. But then why wouldn't I get it again? Well, even though I'm not a reformulation obsessive, it couldn't be more obvious in this case what they have done. The current version, which is not grey by the way, essentially smells like a designer ambroxan scent. There are even rumors of it going by the way of the dinosaurs. So I'm gonna have to be content with this bottle. And last is good old La Nuit de l'Homme from Yves Saint Laurent, released in 2009. I remember getting this as a partial along with the Le Parfum version, like a madman, about 2015 I think. It was the designer fragrance back then, at its peak popularity. I was more impressed with the Le Parfum version actually, and went through that rather fast. I remember even gifting it to a couple of people back then. This 200 ml of the EDT, I've used a lot of, as you can see, but clearly it has slowed down over time. It has not been that long since it was released. Even the original L'Homme came out in the 2000s. But YSL has released, I don't know, maybe 40 flankers or so, and totally saturated the signature in my mind. Somehow feels dated now. I've kind of come back to it the last couple of years because they have completely abandoned this line, discontinued a lot of flankers, all for the totally forgettable, commonplace scent that is myself, hence marking the end of the brand as far as I'm concerned. Still, one of the more memorable openings for a signature fragrance, with that spicy, fresh cardamom, lavender combination, drying down to this sweet, woody base. But I must admit, I think I'm kind of reaching the end of the course with this one. Seemingly, I've also become more sensitive to this dry, dusty, hay-like facet that comes in after a couple of hours. Probably from the coumarin tonka base with lavender that was prevalent in a lot of designer fragrances back then. So now, whenever I wear it, I kind of have to keep refreshing it every couple of hours to keep that opening. It does not last long anyways, which has been a recurring critic. These days, my expectations for my fragrances are very high. That's why I think we are reaching the end of our story. With all that being said, that was my list of fragrances I hope to eventually move on from. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care and ciao.